What is up, everybody? Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Godspeed to you guys. This is the Steel Trap Mind Show. Thank you so much for tuning in alongside your host, Andrew Carter, and
Jennifer Bolton.
and as we've discussed on this podcast, we love to look at how everything affects you from both a monetary standpoint with investing, but there's two sides to every coin. There's health and wealth. I mean, so we look at both, and that's really the topic today is going to be focused on your health and how it's you're consuming.
You need it both, right? You have nothing without your health, and if
You have nothing without your wealth.
you don't have wealth, you don't have freedom. It's freedom. So
I read something today. It said being rich is having a lot of money. Being wealthy is having a lot of money, love, abundance, a lot of proper knowledge, and how to apply said knowledge. So anyway, that is our goal. That's what we're aiming for on this podcast. Give you guys a wealth of knowledge to have more abundance, better living, happier life. And today's topic, we are looking at microplastics. And you probably sit at home wondering what the hell is microplastics? Never heard of it. It is basically, it's the biggest health issue that you probably don't know about, and it's something that you're likely consuming on a daily basis, maybe even right now, and you have no idea how it's even affecting you. So let's delve into this real quick on what are microplastics. This weird word that has popped up in the lexicon. What exactly are microplastics?
well, through different means, plastics begin to degrade in our environment. They make these small plastic particles that are 5 millimeter in size or smaller. And then we also have a smaller size, a nanoparticle, that is 1,000
nanometers
or less. So the bigger are. I'm looking down because I have notes, and we're going to look at the different sizes.
Lot of numbers, and
there's a lot of numbers, so I got to look down.
Yeah, stats that we back it up with peer-reviewed articles we've read, National Geographic. Really trying to reinforce everything, all the knowledge with solid numbers. So let's pull up. Really, like where to begin. A microplastic, you said it's a plastic particle that is less than 5 millimeters.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that wrong before?
No, you said that correctly.
Okay, so we have all these plastics. We've been using plastic for a long time. Only a small percentage has been recycled, and so now these plastics are beginning to break down in our environments. It's in the air, it's in the sea, it's in the soil. So we're breathing it in, we're eating it, and we really don't know the impact to the environment or to humans.
Right. So basically, breaking it down, people out there are inhaling, consuming, digesting plastic particles on a daily basis, and they don't know it. I didn't know this until I looked at it.
So the nanoparticles themselves can embed themselves in tissues, but they're also porous. So any polymer is porous, and it can harbor different pollutants that it comes in contact with in the environment. You eat it and then it leaches out. So have you ever had a fleece jacket that you've got something on and you've washed it and you can't get the smell out? Has anybody?
Someone out there has. Yeah. Surely at least one person listening has had that experience.
And that's because it's made out of polyester, it's a plastic, and it's porous. My dog threw up on my fleece jacket, I might as well just throw it away.
It's like, well, imagine glass. You take glass and it gets dirty, it gets all kind of food and gunk in there, but you clean the glass out, and then it's almost back to being brand new condition.
Right.
Whereas a plastic, because it's a polymer, stuff sticks to it. It's carrying those chemicals, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. Don't want to jump ahead too much. Basically, let's go back to circle one.
Well, let's talk to nanoparticles. Okay,
okay.
So where the bigger particles accumulate in tissues and can be a harbor for other pollutants, the nanoparticles can actually pass through mucous membranes and actually possibly even enter cells. So they're a whole different individual problem than the nanoparticles. Their method of action is different.
Yeah, different. different movements when it degrades, ends up in different places.
It can go right into your cells possibly. It can go through your mucous membrane, so it's really gonna get in there.
But let's go back basically where this all started. I mean, because plastic, and especially having plastic in such a wide scale industrial use. I mean, it really started as early, it was the 50s when plastic started to take off as an everyday consumer good. And I mean, this is according to National Geographic, Washington Post, other credible sources. Since the 50s in this country, we have produced over 80 million, or excuse billion, with a B, 80 billion tons of plastic. Only 10% of that has been recycled. And as mentioned, that plastic is ending up in your rivers, streams, even if it ends up in a landfill or the ocean, it's still very toxic because from the sunlight, from evaporation, those particles break off, and I mean they're everywhere. It's abundant. I mean it's in the air, it's in dust particles, and then that plastic it gets into you, and as we said, all kinds of side effects that have not been fully studied, but really some of the preliminary findings that we've looked at not appealing.
It doesn't take rocket science here to think, oh, this hasn't ever been in our environment before. We have not evolved or made to deal with this toxin. So
right, and well, people didn't give a shit, 10 or 20 years ago. It's like, oh, whatever. Some, octopus eats plastic, or a sea turtle gets plastic around its neck. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's not affecting me. It is affecting you. I mean, it's going to be affecting you here pretty soon. I mean, you have plastic all up in your shit. They're already saying, literally, there's a study by the World Wildlife Foundation and then University of Newcastle, I believe, is a big research institute in Australia. They're saying that the average person is consuming 5 grams of plastic in a given week, which would be the equivalent of an entire size credit card. So imagine if you're eating a credit card every single week. You are. You just don't know it. You have plastic particles all up in your cells, your tissues. I mean, it's one of those things. It's already here, and you could be experiencing the symptoms and have no idea.
Yeah, and we just think it's normal. We just think it's normal to be sick, and it's not. It's not normal to be sick.
I mean, why do you think the last 20 years you look at testosterone levels in men, 20% or even more, 50% plummet. 50% plummet in the last 20 years. Lower, fertility. There's a lot of reason for this stuff, guys, but it goes back to these environmental pollutants that are not naturally occurring. They're man-made, and people really don't give a shit until it's starting to affect them, which it already is. And now let's break down a little bit more why it's bad. I mean, if you're inhaling and digesting these small particles, how that can be bad.
Well, okay, so I pulled a study. So there hasn't been.
And again, these are peer-reviewed studies.
I'm a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a biologist and chemist in training. So when I want to get to the bottom of a topic, I go to peer-reviewed journal articles.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you guys how to read these articles. So you want to read the introduction first, skip the body, and then read the conclusion. And then if you like that, then you can go and look at the data and look at their p-value and look at the association that they run with the statistics. But just start with the front and the bottom, so you're not overwhelmed, because you're going to look at all this data, it's going to be overwhelming. Look at their conclusions, and then they have to disclose if there is, oh my goodness, my mind's went blank. They have to disclose if there is a conflict of interest. So let's say that a large plastic manufacturer funded their study to show that microplastics are in fact safe, but they have to disclose that. So you want to throw away any study or look at it with suspicion if,
You want to know who's funding it, and then that way you'll know if there's a bias.
Yeah, there's a bias. So if they're trying to prove that aspartame is safe, and it's by, Diet Coke, by a Coke company, and they want to show, then you need to look. And there's a long time that we're like, the jury's still out. We have studies that say it's safe and studies that say it's not safe. But when you take a closer look, all those studies that are saying it's safe has actually been funded by someone who has an interest in saying it's safe.
Mm-hmm. And here's the real kicker that they won't tell you. I mean, so they said, oh, as far as we know, it's safe in humans, it's not affecting humans. They've already done animal studies that are showing a range of terrible symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Stunted growth development in children, lower fertility, hormonal imbalance. I mean, you get these plastic particles, and it's not always the plastic itself, it's the chemicals they carry.
Chemicals they carry.
The phthalates and the bisphenol. I probably said that wrong. Bisphenol. That's why I have my better half along here. help steer me back.
Hey, I'm just as bad. I have a biology degree, and I'm terrible at pronouncing the names of microbes, and I get.
Exactly, but so the plastic. I mean, it's terrible to have it up in your system, but it's not always it's the fact that it can carry these chemicals because again, it's a polymer. It sticks to it. So you have the phthalates, the bisophenols, and all this. And again, it's already in early studies showing a huge range of symptoms in animals. And you have to.
Yeah, so I pulled a study on mice because there isn't a lot of studies on mammals.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another problem, and that is that the researchers that's doing this research haven't even developed a framework yet to study. So they need to define criteria and define testing criteria and kind of agree on that as a group to move forward. So a lot of studies have these little polyurethane beads that they're using to study as the microparticle, and I guess that only counts for like 7% of the variety of microplastics out there. So
they vary in so many shapes and sizes
and composition, and as they break down,
and
they break down differently.
The chemicals they carry. I mean, so some microplastics, may be benign if it's just a plastic and there's no chemicals attached to it.
Yeah, maybe it moves through. Some probably may just move through.
Some move through and you don't feel it. I mean, others you might have some of those chemical attached to it that can stay in your body. And I mean, and let's also break down. I mean, the microplastic, as we said, smaller than 5 millimeters in size. So a lot of times it can be somewhat visible to a human eye. But the nanoplastics, which are less than 1,000 nanometers, not always visible to the human eye. So
not even the millimeter isn't, and you've got to realize they're so tiny, they're floating in the air.
And it's so tiny that you can breathe it in, and it can actually.
Breathe it in. You don't see it. It's so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
So to compare nanometers, that is on the size of the virus. We're talking about, you hear in the news of the coronavirus and how tiny it is. These nanoparticles are on the same size.
Same spectrum.
And they just float around. Like you go into places and they got the plexiglass up, and I just kind of chuckled because I'm like, well, that's so tiny. The plexiglass is not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. So you just breathe it right in. Yeah. So the mice study. So what did they see? So we can use this information of what happens in mice to then look at indications in humans, and as a starting place is what we should look for in humans. And we're looking at mice and we're looking at mammals because their metabolism is closer to ours than like other animals. Mm-hmm. So what did they see? So they saw a change in energy metabolism. So if you've taken high school biology, you're aware of ATP. So do you know what ATP is?
Energy production.
Yeah,
I know that much. I don't know what it stands for because it's a long scientific name, and that's not always my expertise.
Okay, so ATP is the molecule that carries the energy for us in our cells. Okay, and that is the energy molecule that provides energy in all of these biochemical reactions in our body. So they're seeing that go down. So that may indicate that there's damage to the mitochondria in our cells. So the mitochondria are the little powerhouses of our cells. So you're going to feel tired. So
and not know it. So
yeah,
I'm low energy. I've slept 9 hours. I've drank coffee. I'm still tired. what's going on.
Right, but also if you're damaging mitochondria, that is associated with cancer. So this could be an early cancer marker that this causes cancer.
It very much could be.
There's an issue with lipid metabolism in this study, so which is associated with inflammation, and inflammation is a driver of all modern diseases. There's a component of inflammation in every modern disease that plagues humans.
Mm-hmm.
So they're seeing that. They're seeing signs of oxidative stress, an indication that there's an imbalance in oxidative defense mechanisms. So this is so important for us to survive. We have these oxygen species. This actually relates to how we talked about the industrial seed oils and how they can be oxidized. It's the same situation where we have these free radicals, they're causing damage, so we have these antioxidants defense mechanisms to get rid of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is directly related to aging. So if humans react the same way as mice do, then these microplastics are accelerating aging.
Basically, and when I was researching a topic, one of the most interesting things I found, they're looking at populations and places where the concentration of these plastics is the highest. And actually, it's around the Maldives. It's an island nation. It's like 1,200 islands, basically, that is in the Indian Ocean, kind of far off the coast of Australia there. Back in the early 90s, because it's an island, and they don't have a lot of land mass. So what they do with all the trash, there's no way to dump it. They don't want to dump it directly in the ocean. They built an artificial island this is crazy, artificial island that doubles as a landfill, and they were dumping over 500 tons of trash per year there. And now scientists are looking at the water samples, and they're studying the fish and the animals that are inland, and they're finding that these islands have the highest concentrations of microplastics anywhere in the world. And so I would say, as a kind of a barometer, you look at, this country, the Maldives, pay attention the next 10, 15 years, what's coming out of that country, how are the people there, their health, how's it adjusting, are they having some kind of serious health issues? Because, I can guarantee there'd have to be some kind of correlation there.
So what scientists can do, they can do a prospective study and begin to look at the population and look for indications that there are diseases that are happening in a higher rate than other places in the world, then that's a place to begin to study.
That's a hot spot for all the folks.
Yeah. So you look at if there's higher prevalence of certain types of cancer, age-related diseases, then you'll start to make that correlation that it's due to the microplastics and the environment there.
And it's tough because plastic, it's at this point something that really for decades has been part of our everyday life. It's so durable, it's cheap to produce, transport. It's at this point it's something that's so ingrained in our everyday lives that it's very hard to imagine, getting rid of it completely or avoiding a world without plastic. But no, it's really a lot of this coming to light, just how terrible it is to have all these billions of tons of plastic not recycled. And you might think, oh, well, it's affecting the animals. No, it's affecting everyone. It's affecting you. It's affecting air quality.
Yeah.
They're finding bees are having plastic particles in them and are having more trouble with producing pollen, with pollinating. I'll tell you right now, if bees can't pollinate all of a sudden, eventually it's not going to affect your quality of life on Earth because there won't be life on.
We won't have crops. We won't have vegetation to make oxygen. It will ruin our atmosphere. It'll ruin the ecosystem. So babe, what do we need to do about this?
So a couple.
What can we do?
There are several steps people can take to avoid their plastic exposure. There's things that they can do, on an individual level for themselves, their families at home. And then obviously stuff that we need to do as a society at large. So first off, if you have a home with carpets, probably already know this, carpets are a magnet for dust, chemicals, and all this junk. I mean, they're also a magnet for microparticles. A lot of dust you see now didn't used to be this way. A lot of dust actually is likely microplastic, breakup. So if you have hardwood floors, you're going to be a lot better off. Clean if you have carpets, clean them as much as possible. Just be aware that they're in there lurking. It's like when I don't want to scare folks at home, like, oh, it's lurking, it's everywhere. It basically is, and at this point you can't really avoid it, but you can take all the steps to mitigate it. So number one, like I said, hardwood floors, clean the carpet as much as possible. Be aware of that. Plastic bottles. Don't consume too many plastic bottles, especially the smaller ones, because if the surface area of the water is smaller, like in ratio to the plastic bottle,
You're getting more exposure.
you're
to the
getting
plastic.
a lot more exposure to plastic.
So get like as big of containers as you can of water.
Big glass jugs.
Yeah.
And
yeah, if you can, like, and there are, what is it called? Ice Mountain. They will actually deliver water in glass containers.
so that's the way to do it. And oddly, I'm not recommending the folks at home go on tap water bins, drink a bunch of tap water. It's actually going to be safer for you to drink tap water rather than plastic bottled water if you're trying to avoid the plastic. But you're going to expose yourself to other shit. But
fluoride.
yeah, I mean, whatever, lead or whatever other chemicals are in there. But the best thing, get giant glass bottles, glass gallon jugs. Get some reverse osmosis water. Get water that's from a stream nearby. Maybe not a stream. Almost a spring.
Yeah.
If there's a spring water is pretty solid. The only thing, there's that sulfur smell that you kind of gotta get over sometimes. But so I would say definitely do that. Be aware of your clothes, folks at home. I didn't know this till recently. It's better to know this late than never. Any clothes you're wearing, always try to err on the side of having the more natural fiber. Cotton is always great. Wool, it is the most itchy. People don't really wear wool shirts anymore. But some people do, not as many. But that is wool is those natural fiber clothing material.
Wool. Don't get me started on wool. I mean, it's naturally flame retardant. It's naturally antimicrobial, so you get a nice wool sweater and wear it a lot because just air it out. You don't have to wash it. So go ahead and invest in that cashmere sweater or merino wool.
Ooh, I love cashmere. Other than the fact you don't have to wash it, it breaks down so easily, but it is the best.
Yeah, every year I'm like, how many cashmere sweaters?
If I could have a cashmere couch, cashmere furniture, I would do it. I'd be the guy to rock it. It'd be the most. How expensive would that shit be?
Well, you know what I want right now is like a wool mattress topper. That's like in my Amazon shopping cart.
So all the people at home, the folks we love out there, you guys know to use wool and cotton, natural. So what to avoid? Polyesters. Be careful of any clothes with polyesters, any unnatural fibers.
Athletic wear.
Pantyhose, I read actually. I don't know if most people wear tights. You don't see pantyhose. People still wear pantyhose.
You're like living in leggings.
Yeah, leggings and pantyhose are going to have the higher concentration of these plastic particles, and especially when it's tight-fitting clothes, it's going to delve into your skin more. So, and I'm not trying to be a fear monger, say get rid of all that completely. I'm just saying have that higher awareness, be mindful of it.
Yeah, I think do I really need another black pair of leggings?
Yeah, it's like if you're drinking 30 small bottled bars a day and you're wearing tight athletic polyester clothes, I'm not saying don't do it at all. I'm just saying limit it. Life is all about moderation. Just do these things with moderation. So those are some huge things you can do.
I've got glass containers at home for leftovers. I pack my daughter's lunch in silicone, these interesting little silicone sleeve things, or a stainless steel bento box so that she's not exposed to plastics and her lunch isn't exposed to plastics. Heating food up in plastic, don't do it. Buy glass, it'll last you forever.
If you heat food up in the plastic, that plastic is liable to seep into the food. So be very mindful of any, as Jennifer said, any food storage that has plastic. Be careful of that. Don't heat your food And that's something that should be very easily avoidable. Don't heat your food in plastic.
Right, and just recycle. If we all did our part and start to recycle, and then you've researched industry. So what is industry doing to clean the oceans and to clean our soil and
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of companies to invest in directly, publicly traded companies where you can invest in plastic cleanup. I will say, for people out there, it's a huge business opportunity. Any kind of environmental cleanup doesn't have to be plastic. I mean, there's all kinds of particles, pollutants, chlorine cleanup. So that's a huge business opportunity if you want to take the time and start your own cleanup business. Coca-Cola and Adidas, some of these bigger companies, they're already partnering, to recycle plastic, make clothes that are made of recyclable plastics. There are a few startups that look promising. There's one startup, actually, the name of it escapes me. It's a Dutch company. If I can find it real quick. Oh, here we go. River Recycle. That's a promising one. I like them the most because they actually are taking a lot of the plastic particles and bottles, they're recycling from the ocean. They're finding ways then to make them into biofuel. I mean, really, as most people are probably aware, if you're not, I mean, yeah, a lot of most plastic is produced from refined petroleum or oil. So you can take those plastic bottles and more easily convert them into a fuel because in most cases made of fuel. So yeah, I would say that's a huge business opportunity. I mean, to make recyclables like that, it's already common to see them being made into shoes and clothing wear. But I like the idea of making them into a biofuel. I think that has the best application and will have the most promise. So definitely, yeah, be on the lookout for environmental cleanup companies, ones that specialize in refining those products that are cleaned up into any kind of biofuel. That's going to be a huge business opportunity in the future. Right now, it's really in the kind of the nascent beginning stages, but that shows a lot of promise. But yeah, hey, again, I mean, we're not trying to scare people. I just want to make you aware of everything going on. You'll learn how to mitigate it, have a better life, and do everything in moderation.
Well, and awareness by the public, that is what drives innovation and that's what drives companies to do something. So,
Absolutely. This isn't a mainstream topic, but that's our goal. Take these topics, make them mainstream, and share this video, send it to all your friends. Talk to people about these issues that are affecting everyone's life and don't know it. And yeah, that's how we're gonna make a better world and a better future for everybody.
that's right.
All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much again for joining us for this week's edition of the Steel Trap Mind Show, alongside your host Andrew Carter.
Jennifer Bolton.
All right, and Godspeed to everyone out there. Stay safe. Much love to you guys.